I know a lot of the guys I really admire. So some of the most famous hunters are old fellas now. Heaps of them will retire into photography. So I know guys like there's one guy, one of my flatmates. His uncle's a very, very famous hunter. Writes for Rod and Rifle, written books on tar and chamois, including like journal papers and things on their behaviour. And he's shot heaps. So one day he was like, I'm actually kind of good at this. This is no longer a challenge. So now he just takes photos. He'll shoot the occasional one for meat and stuff because he still wants to can't buy chamois in the supermarket. But so he'll still shoot the occasional one. But for him now, his joy is just being able to take pictures because it is that chase. It's still it is still primal, and you kind of
you're not pulling the trigger. You're not shooting with a gun. You're shooting with a.
Well, I mean, otherwise I'd be a hypocrite because I play a lot of violent video games.
You get that.
Yeah.
So it is primal, but it's not like the primal part isn't like I just want to flip and end this thing's life. That's its side.
So like you play. So you're saying you play violent video games. So
I'm probably not. I'm not more interested in the violent video games, but I don't care if they're violent.
You're not opposed to it.
I'm not opposed to it because it's just like pixels on the screen.
Yeah. So
and I get that. I think there is a deep biological, need for. I think probably, which is why it's more prevalent for guys to be into hunting than girls. To be masculine, to hunt something down, to be I don't know, number one or whatever. I'm not very good at putting this into words, but it's for me. It's just like I get that exists, but it can definitely I'd see it as it can be obtained through non-violent means, such as you could say video games. But I also used to go climbing a lot, so I used to go out into the hills, and often I'd share a hut with in the dock huts with hunters as well, and we'd pretty much we would like my group of climbers and the hunters, we wouldn't really talk to each other, but we'd both be doing the same thing insofar as we're appreciating the beauty of everything out there. And the way I'd be doing it is I'd still get that adrenaline rush, but I'd be climbing up a rock instead of really pulling a trigger instead. But I don't know. I'd say it's two ways to kind of get the same feeling of triumph and
So common ground there's a common ground thing around some sort of mutual enjoyment. It's
like the process, not the end game.
Yeah, it's not in killing or whatever. It's just that adrenaline rush, and hunting gives that adrenaline rush. But I'd also argue that other things like climbing could. But yeah.
And there is something like I feel like both Vegetarian Society and Huntsock would, when confronted with industry farmed meat and pack and save, go,
oh man,
that's not awesome. Would that be right?
It pisses me off. We talked to Jolly, and we got a mutual friend who's vegetarian, and he's real keen to come hunting with me, mostly because he admits that because he has eaten meat in the past, and he still does on occasion. He's
flexitarian.
Yeah. So for him, because his big thing is, I feel like I shouldn't be eating meat if I couldn't kill it myself. That's the thing. So he still will eat veg a lot. And that pisses me off when I hear people who aren't vegetarian will eat meat, but they'll criticise hunting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you meat, it's this strange thing where once meat enters the freezer wrapped in plastic, it's no longer an animal anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm
there's a real cognitive dissonance in that aspect, I think.
There is.
And especially because when you're going to the supermarket and people like to think, I'm voting for the Green Party. Look, this is me doing my part, but. I mean, fuck, the world is run on, whatever you pay for it. You vote with your dollar, the bottom line is. And
you eat
if you're paying for that, you're pretty much paying for people to, put an animal through,
that process.
Yeah, that process, exactly. So, in hunting, at least you are actually, as what I said before, you're actually being out there and you're giving it, I guess, a companion step, and you're actually seeing what you're doing. You're not just... pretending that there's an invisible barrier saying, the animal's already dead, It's me buying it isn't having an effect on it.
I thought the other thing you guys have in common is you both kill your own food.
That's true.
I slaughter all them carrots.
Oh man.
All day, every day.
Love to snap the
we'll probably come to an end pretty soon because this has been so good. It's so good.
We haven't even gone to Docky though.
I know
we can make time.
One of the things how you're saying how the word I use is hustle. So what happens is when people don't want to be confronted around their habits, because most people, the habits people are willing to change are that. They live here. They've got that's up for option. So most people just aren't open to changing meat. They don't even want to think about it. They want to remain ignorant. And so they can't see that there's a difference between consuming, say, 300 million tonnes of beef here and the 30 tonnes of medical treatment, right? They go, they're all one and the same. But I have noticed with vegans and vegetarians, but would be both, is that their thing that can't be challenged is drinking alcohol.
What do you mean?
That uses fish.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So I've got vegan friends who because their response is, but to not drink alcohol, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? So
that would be.
that's just, you're pushing it too far. And I've always thought, that's quite interesting. I was never trying to entrap them.
Yeah.
I was going, but in the end, your personal pleasure wins.
I'd argue that that's a very small percentage of vegans who actually say, I don't really care about alcohol. I mean, there's a lot of even Guinness has just turned vegan, so there's a lot of
there's so
wines
many vegan,
and
there's a lot of vegans.
Things
like
like
cider
that.
is all vegan.
And all it is, it's just like knowing which products you want to buy at the supermarket.
So it's not
once
that
you know what they are, then
I
every
mean,
bottle.
that food there today. I mean, half of that I bet you wouldn't have even known.
Yeah, so much of it.
Tasty.
Yeah,
Have
exactly.
one more bit of this, but over here.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I guess it's kind of like you shouldn't judge the community by a couple of the people who are I guess a bit hypocritical. But even so, they're doing their best. You can't expect everyone to be perfect.
I think what it is.
I wouldn't criticise.
It's more like it's probably more to do with. It's probably more a critique of the alcohol culture around people
especially New Zealand,
Yeah, well, I was like, if on one side people don't want to give up their meatloaf, on the other side they don't want to give up their Chardonnay. That's what it felt like.
Yeah,
Just two sides. What have we learnt today? What have you learnt about the vegetarian?
Go, Joel.
Oh, here.
Tell me.
I feel like I've done
Name 10 facts.
Yeah.
But to be fair, see, hunters are probably more of a, how the hell do you do that for vegetarians? And vegetarians are for hunters, right?
Well, I feel like we could also equally how do you do that to an animal?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It sort of goes both ways.
I'm a bit interested because I probably I think if I grew up not being a vegan, then I'd be a meat eater, and unless I was specifically confronted with my views and stuff, I probably think I could probably go through with killing an animal as well. But it's more of not an emotional response. The fact that I feel bad about killing an animal, this is something in philosophy. Just the fact that it is the case that I feel bad about killing an animal doesn't mean that it's intrinsically wrong, because I feel bad about a lot of things that are bad, cutting my toenails or whatever. It's more it's more the ethical problem that I have with it, So and it kind of goes back to I can see if you're experimenting on one animal to save 100 lives, then I think you could justify that also because I'm a utilitarian, but there's nothing for me intrinsically wrong with the action in and of itself. It's just if it can be pursued through non-violent means that.
I see.
Yeah.
So what are you going to say?
I was actually going to say essentially that I think I realised that it's more about alternatives than it is about just never ever harm an animal sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not to say because in that sense I think that is common ground, because I would still agree I can even remember use the shampoo example. I remember when I was younger and I found that they used to do anti-testing on shampoo, and I was always real with shampoos, and also what was it, Dex wax that we used to use, and Dominant wax, all those bloody heavy products when we were younger. And I was always real stoked when I used to see on the back of those that it would say animal testing free, or whatever, they didn't do animal testing. So I think that has been the biggest learning curve, because I don't think I've ever, I only know of one other vegan.
Because that's probably the worst part of it, isn't it? When they do cosmetic testing, because that's super unnecessary.
Yeah, I think people don't inherently want to hurt animals. There's maybe a few people that would actually enjoy it, but most people, meat eater or not, they don't actually like the thought of seeing an animal suffering. And so I have so many omnivore / normal friends, and if I post something about this makeup's cruelty free, they go, oh my god, I must buy that, I must buy that, I must buy that. I'm like, yeah, you're eating meat 3 times. I mean, I'd never say that to them. I'd be
imagine the meat pie
congrats.
crumbs spitting out of their mouth.
Yeah.
I'll be looking for this.
I love rabbits. It comes back to the culture. They go, oh yes, unnecessary because we don't need makeup, we just want makeup. And I'm like, well, the same argument can be said for bacon and things, but they, because it's been ingrained in the culture for so long, they'll claim that they do need it, and some people do think that, and which is fine, but I think a lot has to do with the culture as well, and especially in New Zealand. It's
Yeah, New Zealand has a real strong meat eating culture.
I guess agricultural thing,
But
It's actually kind of funny though. New Zealand also has a really strong vegan community, so the two kind of juxtapose each other in an interesting way.
What have you guys learned? What have you got? Have you learned anything else? What have you got?
No, I haven't learned anything actually. I don't know any vegans, so now I know two.
Yeah,
awesome.
So that's good. And three. I'm not convinced yet. I've learned everything about vegans today. So, I didn't know that they didn't eat meat and milk and animal stuff. Like, But there you go. I worked on a dairy farm, so milk's close to my heart. But so that's always good to learn how new people, how they approach life
and learn that we're not all crazy, like banana smoothie.
I know I'm not supposed to be part of this, but like I don't know if this gives you any sort of hope. But you can obviously be born into veganism, but you can I've worked in slaughterhouses and I've worked on dairy farms, so I have come from a place of thinking it was okay. To now realising that I'm not okay with it, so you can change. Like, it doesn't have to be today, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, but you can evolve.
I think for me it's also like, I'm always, whenever I'm talking about like, if someone's interested in veganism, because I think it's something like 4 out of 5 people who turn vegetarian convert back, in their lifetimes, and I'm always really cautious about saying, well, you have to go 100% vegetarian, 100% vegan. No. I'm always just like, well, if you think about it, it's all about supply and demand. So if you're paying for a product, then you're demanding more of it. So if you try and just lessen it, or perhaps instead of having a full steak dinner, maybe just I don't know if there's a product with only an ingredient, or instead of saying absolutely no dairy products at all, if you don't think you can give up cheese, just give up dairy products apart from cheese. Because cheese, if you think about it, you're not eating a block of cheese a day. You're not eating it in the same quantity that you would eat milk or something like that. It's all about reducing the demand as much as you can, as much as you feel comfortable with. It's not
it's not 100%
black or white.
But there's a lot of, I can't say the word, abolitionists.
Abolitionists.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I don't like that. I have in my, because the way my brain works is I have in my head, if I really, really wanted a steak tomorrow, I'd eat it, and I would, because then I have in my brain that if I did want something, I could easily have it. I'm not like, okay, it's the last piece of meat I've ever touched, but I haven't eaten it for over 2 years, but I have in my mind that if I wanted to, I easily could and would, because I don't want it to be I want it to be a lifetime thing rather than a very short stint that I do.
It's interesting. It's like you want to kill animals more often, but you've eaten meat more regularly than you've managed to kill animals. Isn't it? In 2 years? 2 years would be an average distance for you between being.
No, not that bad. We had a bad stint there. That was just a normally
it's just bad. If you had all my animals, I probably should have been a bit of meat, but
you'd still be averaging. What are you averaging still? Because that was your 10th year, and you haven't been hunting for 10 years. So it's 2 a year on average.
Yeah, that's 2 a year.
What about you guys? What have you learned about hunters?
Oh, well, I've definitely learned that you're not all crazy gun flippering, hips.
Like the guys on Tinder, holding up the dead thing, and I'm like, no one is gonna swipe left. Is it swipe left or swipe right? I can't remember.
That's honestly, you get that with girls as well. Sometimes they'll just have a pig slung over their shoulders.
I mean, I suppose they can find each other, it's great, but I think you guys, I don't know, I feel like it would be, because you guys sound very ethical, this sounds really weird, but very ethical hunters type thing, you're not into the suffering, you only shoot what you need, and things like that. I think that is really good, and it's far, far above factory farming or just the hunters that kill.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really good. But it would be really interesting to talk to people that are just shoot everything.
Yeah, I also think there is a reason why people, organisations like SAFE don't necessarily target or launch main campaigns on targeting hunters or things like that, because if you think about it, it's such a small percentage of all the animals that are being killed. Literally billions, every tens of billions every year are being slaughtered, and it's in factory farming, and then you wouldn't get close to that number with hunting, even if everybody who ate meat hunted, because as you said, it's so difficult to actually kill an animal sometimes.
Yeah.
When you're out there.
That's why I hate Doc. Because
the last one.
There's two things that I don't like about Doc, and it's Waro and 1080.
Oh mate.
Yeah.
Do you know about Waro?
I haven't heard of it.
So it's wild animal recovery operations. And essentially they just shoot animals with a helicopter. They'll just drive them up the hill where we can't get away. Basins, bang, and then tow them all out.
I've seen videos of that.
But it's also they'll keep the venison and the velvet and stuff.
It's to keep the population down, because deer are ruminants and they do eat.
They
do eat broadleaf and native species and things like that.
Yeah,
so they do have to keep the population down.
But it's
hunters
the way they do it,
do a
Yeah.
fucking good job on the raw hennies, even though Doc decided to pull out 800 deer a year.
We studied that in environmental ethics or during the summer semester, but it's crazy just to think that like all of the pests that we consider, you know, that are bad for New Zealand, they were all fucking introduced by by humans in like the 40s and 50s and stuff like that, and it's just
And the worst pest, like I really don't like the
worst pest of all are
argument.
humans, you know, like
Yeah, they
if you feel
overpopulate, they ruin everything.
Yeah.
It's like, well, humans are the worst at that, so
Yeah,
if that's
yeah.
your logic, then shouldn't you be killing off every baby that pops out?
leading causes species extinction, forest deforestation, you know.
Like, I'm not
Totally.
doing that, but like
Yeah.
by that logic, it
Oh, totally.
really doesn't make sense.
The other thing
Yeah.
I hate about
Just a
Doc
justification.
is 1080.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Teen
Do you guys know how
poison.
that works?
Yeah, they starve the animal. don't they? Yeah.
It
Well,
stops what's called the Krebs cycle.
Yeah.
So,
So, like,
yeah,
does a
just
step into they can't like
any
thing
any
off-
food they eat, they'll produce glucose out of it. It's just their cells can't use the glucose. So essentially, they can eat as much as they want, but they just won't use the energy it produces. So they just slowly like
Getting more and more
lethargic,
until-
and then
It's
I did
super
think that
uncomfortable.
I don't know, I can't remember where I got the information from, it's probably biased, but I thought because it interrupted the Krebs cycle that it was instantaneous, but then I've heard a lot more that it's actually really
Definitely
slow
not
and horrible.
instantaneous. Thing is,
Yeah.
it's aimed at rats and stoats, and they do it in the mass cycles of beech trees. It was the point.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the thing is that it's super bad for deer, and they can put like deer repellent on it, but it doesn't really work because the moment it washes off.
And
Have you
You
ever
get
found
dogs and
dogs
stuff
and
as
hills
well,
here?
yeah.
Have you ever found that you've like killed an animal that's ingested 1080 and then do you get?
I
do
haven't
people get sick
because the
from it?
moment they do 1080,
No
if
one
you
will
go
touch
to if
it.
you go to
It
an
will.
area that's been 1080, just like there's nothing living.
Not even bird noise.
Birds
There's
don't
nothing.
go there
And they're
because
like, yeah, we're saving all the
Definitely
animals.
si-
birds go
definitely
somewhere
silent.
else. They migrate right out of there.
Yeah.
So like, there's just nothing living there. I went to a spot recently, up in Arthur's Pass, and I had high hopes for it. And then you like walk straight in, and you like see a sign that says 1080.
Yeah.
Don't drink water out of this stream, and it's done in December. It takes about 2 years to recuperate
At
the
least,
population.
Oh.
Just to start. So you can't just go back there for 2 years after they 1080 a place,
It's sad.
which sucks.
Oh.
We're good. We're done.
Yay,
That
Thank
was,
you.
That was really good.
that was good.